Throughout history, countless battles have been fought on fields soaked with blood, where brave soldiers met their untimely deaths. But for many, these battlefields have become more than just a chapter in history. They have transformed into haunted grounds. From the blood-stained soil of Gettysburg to the historic fields of Waterloo, these locations are now believed to be home to restless spirits. Join us as we explore 30 of the most haunted battlefields around the world, where the echoes of war still linger. 1. Gettysburg Battlefield, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, USA. Gettysburg stands as one of the most haunted battlefields in America. The bloodiest battle of the Civil War left over 50,000 casualties, and many believe some souls never left. As twilight settles over the rolling hills, mist swirls, carrying with it whispers of the past. Phantom soldiers, both Union and Confederate, are seen marching through the fog, their spectral forms illuminated by unseen light. The cries of the wounded echo in the stillness of the night, while disembodied footsteps crunch on gravel paths. At Devil's Den, one of the most notorious spots, a disheveled soldier is often spotted leaning on rocks, only to vanish when approached. Some visitors report hearing cannon fire and gunshots, the unmistakable sounds of battle, despite the silence of the modern landscape. The ghostly figures of fallen men, trapped between worlds, linger where they fell, locked in an eternal struggle. 2. Cullan Battlefield, Inverness, Scotland, UK. The winds howl across the moorlands of Culloden, carrying with them the cries of dying Jacobites. It was here in 1746 that the dreams of Bonnie Prince Charlie and his men were shattered, and the spirits of the slain are said to haunt the land to this day. Visitors have reported seeing the spectral forms of Highland warriors wandering the field, their faces twisted in agony, their tartan-clad bodies bloodied and broken. The ghostly clang of swords and muskets can sometimes be heard in the dead of night, and eerie fogs roll in without warning, blanketing the battlefield in an otherworldly glow. Near the Clan Fraser Stone, where many fell, a chilling presence is often felt, as if the very earth remembers the violence and suffering of that dark day. Some claim to have seen figures lying motionless on the ground, only for them to dissolve into the mist as they approach. 3. Antietam Battlefield, Sharpsburg, Maryland, USA. Antietam was the site of the single bloodiest day in American history, and it's no surprise that the battlefield is steeped in ghostly legends. The cornfield, where thousands of soldiers died in brutal hand-to-hand combat, is said to be one of the most haunted locations. Visitors speak of a heavy, oppressive feeling, and some claim to hear the groans of the dying carried on the wind. The Dunker Church, a site of refuge during the battle, is often the scene of strange occurrences, lights flickering, doors slamming, and the unmistakable smell of gunpowder lingering in the air. The nearby sunken road, now known as Bloody Lane, is where many say they've witnessed soldiers covered in blood and dirt, walking aimlessly, trapped in the final moments of their lives. On foggy mornings, the cries of men still seem to rise from the ground, an eternal testament to the horrors that unfolded here. 4. Chickamauga Battlefield, Georgia, USA. Chickamauga is not only one of the most haunted battlefields in America, but also one of the eeriest. The battle left over 34,000 men dead, and many believe the spirits of these soldiers still roam the area. The most infamous spirit is Old Green Eyes, a creature with glowing green eyes that has been spotted wandering the battlefield at night. Some claim it's the ghost of a Confederate soldier, while others believe it's something far more sinister. Shadowy figures are often seen moving through the trees, and the sounds of battle, distant cannon fire, cries of the wounded, can still be heard on quiet nights. Near Snodgrass Hill, a cold, unnatural chill often descends, even in the heat of summer, and many have reported feeling unseen hands on their shoulders or hearing whispered voices in their ears. 5. Waterloo Battlefield, Waterloo, Wallonia, Belgium. The echoes of Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo continue to reverberate through time, as many believe the spirits of those who died in 1815 still haunt the field. The battle was ferocious, with over 50,000 men killed or wounded in a single day. Locals and visitors alike report seeing spectral soldiers marching across the plains, their uniforms tattered and bloodied, their faces grim with the horror of war. The Hougoumont farm, a focal point of the battle, is said to be particularly active with paranormal phenomena. Visitors have seen ghostly figures in the windows and strange sounds. Footsteps, voices, and even gunshots have been heard echoing through the empty halls. At night, the fields are sometimes bathed in an eerie glow, and the sound of galloping horses and the clash of steel lingers in the cold, damp air. 6. Bannockburn Battlefield, Stirling, Scotland, UK. Bannockburn is remembered for one of Scotland's greatest victories, but the cost in lives was steep, and the souls of the fallen are said to linger on the battlefield. The clash of steel and the cries of the dying are still reported by those brave enough to visit after dark. Some have seen the ghostly image of Robert the Bruce on horseback, leading his army to victory, while others report seeing phantom foot soldiers, their faces pale and drawn, wandering the field. A dense fog sometimes rolls in, even on clear days, and within that fog, shadows move, unseen figures locked in an endless battle. The surrounding woods are said to be haunted by restless spirits, and the distant sound of bagpipes, playing a mournful tune, occasionally drifts through the trees, reminding all who hear it of the lives lost in the struggle for Scottish independence. 7. Battle of Little Bighorn, Crow Agency, Montana, USA. The Battle of Little Bighorn, where General Custer and his men met their tragic end, is one of America's most notorious haunted battlefields. The plains where the battle took place are said to be filled with the restless spirits of both Native American warriors and U.S. cavalrymen. Witnesses have reported seeing phantom soldiers on horseback, riding silently across the landscape, only to disappear into the horizon. Disembodied voices, often speaking in Lakota, Cheyenne, and Sioux, are heard on the wind, and some visitors feel an overwhelming sense of sorrow as they walk the grounds. The area near Custer's last stand is particularly active, with reports of ghostly figures standing motionless in the tall grass, as if watching and waiting. The sound of battle, gunfire, shouting, and the thundering of hooves sometimes fills the air, a spectral echo of the violent clash that occurred so long ago. 8. Somme Battlefield, Somme, Hauts-de-France, France. The haunting of the Somme Battlefield is one of the most chilling reminders of the horrors of World War I. Here, more than 1 million men perished, caught in a relentless nightmare of bloodshed. Today, visitors often report a bone-chilling atmosphere, with cold winds that seem to carry the anguished cries of the lost souls who once roamed these fields. At night, the land is said to come alive with ghostly figures, soldiers with hollow eyes, their uniforms tattered, stumbling through the trenches. Some claim to have seen men standing at the edge of craters, staring silently into the darkness before vanishing. The area around Thiepval Memorial is especially active, with people hearing distant gunfire, even though no shots are fired. In the quiet, broken landscape, the spirits of the fallen seem to walk in a never-ending march of despair. 9. Verdun Battlefield, Verdun, Grand Est, France. Verdun was a battle of attrition, with over 700,000 soldiers lost in one of the longest and most devastating engagements of World War I. The ground is soaked with the blood of those who perished, and many believe that the souls of the dead still linger here, unable to find peace. Visitors have reported hearing the sound of footsteps behind them, only to turn and find nothing but the desolate landscape. Phantom voices cry out for help from the shadows, and strange cold winds sweep through the ruined forts and trenches. At Fort Douaumont, where many soldiers were trapped underground, some say they can hear the faint sound of muffled screams, as if the soldiers' suffering is replayed over and over again. The land itself seems to weep, and no matter how hard one tries, the sorrow of Verdun can never be escaped. 10th. Gallipoli Battlefield, Gallipoli Peninsula, Turkey. The Gallipoli campaign was marked by disastrous failure and staggering losses, with tens of thousands of soldiers, both Allied and Ottoman, dying in futile attacks. Today, the Gallipoli Peninsula is a place where spirits are said to wander, forever trapped by the memory of the battle's horrors. On quiet nights, visitors report hearing the faint cries of soldiers, calling for help or mourning their lost comrades. At Anzac Cove, where Australian and New Zealand troops made their ill-fated landing, phantom figures have been seen moving silently along the shore, their forms barely distinguishable from the mist. The sound of footsteps, marching in formation, sometimes echoes across the hills, followed by a sharp, oppressive silence that feels as though the battlefield has momentarily come alive once more. 11th. Fredericksburg Battlefield, Fredericksburg, Virginia, USA. The Battle of Fredericksburg was an unimaginable massacre, with thousands of men falling in brutal waves. Today, the battlefield is known for its haunting apparitions and eerie phenomena. At Mary's Heights, where Confederate forces held their ground against Union soldiers in a futile charge, visitors often report seeing shadowy figures marching up the hill, only to disappear before reaching the top. Cold spots appear without warning, and some have felt the touch of invisible hands gripping their shoulders or arms. The sound of cannon fire and rifle shots, although long silenced, sometimes echoes through the trees, as if the battle is being replayed in an endless loop. Some visitors have even claimed to have seen soldiers, both Union and Confederate, lying in the grass, as though waiting for orders that will never come. 12. Shiloh Battlefield, Shiloh, Tennessee, USA. At Shiloh, the ground is said to be haunted by the souls of the 23,000 men who died in the two-day battle in April 1862. Shiloh is one of the most famous haunted Civil War sites, with stories of spectral soldiers wandering the woods and fields. Visitors have seen figures in gray and blue uniforms, their faces twisted in fear and pain, marching silently through the trees. Many claim to have heard the distant sound of drums, the orders of officers, and the screams of soldiers in the midst of battle. At the infamous Bloody Pond, where the wounded and dying were left to bleed into the water, it is said that the water sometimes takes on a red hue, as though the blood of the fallen has never fully been washed away. The feeling of being watched is overwhelming, and many claim to have been followed by unseen presences as they walk the fields. 13. Cold Harbor Battlefield, Mechanicsville, Virginia, USA. Cold Harbor is infamous for being the site of one of the bloodiest and most futile battles of the American Civil War. Thousands of soldiers died in vain, and their restless spirits are said to remain, forever doomed to walk the land. At dusk, shadowy figures are often seen moving along the edge of the battlefield, appearing as faint outlines of soldiers who were never able to find peace. Some visitors claim to have heard the distinct sound of a bugle playing a mournful tune, only to find no one around. At times, the air grows unnaturally cold, and the smell of gunpowder and blood fills the nostrils, a stark reminder of the battle's horrors. Disembodied voices murmuring in agony are reported by many, adding to the battlefield's chilling reputation. 14th Manassas Battlefield, Manassas, Virginia, USA. The site of two major battles in the Civil War, the Manassas Battlefield is steeped in ghostly tales. The ground here is said to be soaked with the blood of over 22,000 men, and the restless souls of soldiers who perished in the heat of battle are believed to wander the fields. Visitors frequently report seeing figures in Union and Confederate uniforms, their forms blurred as they walk the historic paths. Cannon fire, though long silent, can sometimes be heard in the distance, along with the galloping of unseen horses. At night, the air becomes thick with a sense of foreboding, and strange lights have been seen floating in the trees, like the torches of ancient spectral armies. At Henry Hill, where the First Battle of Bull Run took place, many have felt the sharp sting of unseen bullets or the rush of a phantom cavalry charge. 15. Isandlwana Battlefield, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. The battlefield of Isandlwana, where the Zulu army decisively defeated the British in 1879, is one of the most haunted sites in South Africa. The ground here is steeped in blood, and many believe the spirits of the fallen Zulu warriors and British soldiers still wander the plains. On certain nights, visitors hear the war cries of the Zulu, their voices rising from the earth like a primal scream. Some say they can see the shadowy figures of warriors running through the grass, their bodies disappearing into the landscape. At the foot of the hill, where the British made their final stand, a heavy, oppressive energy lingers, and many visitors report feeling as though they are being watched by unseen eyes. The wind often carries the faint sound of drums, and strange lights are seen moving across the battlefield, as though reenacting the last moments of the fateful clash.